Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a Faction Wars guide for the Barbarians. I will go over the team that I use, show you an infographic about that. Then I will show you a graphic I made showing all the champions and how they grade. And then at the end of the video, I will show you my full auto 3-star clear of the last stage of the Barbarian Faction Wars. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so first things first, let's go ahead and pop open my team here. So this is the team that I use to 3-star stage 21. It is a full auto clear where I can farm the last stage of Faction Wars with it. You can see all of the gear choices, the total stats, the averages on the left, all that good stuff. And as always for my infographics, I will have a pinned comment, nice and easy to find, where you can pull this stuff up yourself. But in terms of the champions themselves, Valkyrie I used in my double counterattack clan boss team. So she's built in clan boss gear, lifesteal, immortal, and the best stats of those pieces I could find, and I just left her in her same clan boss build. Then I've got Marked, who is a really good rare. She can block debuffs, do all sorts of good utility for your team. Contra Cyclone was a newer legendary introduced to the game and is very good in Faction Wars. And then Syl of the Drakes is a daily login reward that you can achieve if you play the game long enough, and she's actually just generally amazing. Really good for account progression and really good in Faction Wars. And then War Maiden, one of the best rares in the game, up there with Bellower, Kale, and Cold Heart, and Apothecary, and then War Maiden probably rounds out the top 5 rares in the game. So really good. I slot her in as a defense breaker to lower and debuff the enemies. She does that on a 3-turn cooldown AoE, big version of defense break, so I've got her in there for that. Syl to help me stun the waves, provide a lot of consistent heals when she cranks out every turn. Contra's in there for all the general utility she brings. Marked, same concept, general utility. Valk brings massive shields and counterattack to my team. So this team definitely easily clears it. It is just kind of a slog that takes almost 7 minutes. But now let's hop into the Barbarian Index. And you can see here I've got this little graphic pulled up that shows all of the Faction Wars grades that are on my tier list. My tier list is in the video description. If you want to see the full tier list, this just shows the Faction Wars section of it. And then I have it narrowed down to the Barbarians faction. I've got it off-centered so that when I pull up a champion, I'm not blocking their stats and all of that. So that's why the infographic is kind of in a weird spot. But yeah, I wanted to pull up Aina first because I'm actually thinking about adding Aina or Aina, however you say it. I always pronounce it wrong. I'm sure you guys will let me know how to say that. But I'm thinking about adding her to my team because I've got really good sustain and heals with Valkyrie and Syl of the Drakes. Dying isn't really a problem for my team. I want more single target damage to lower my clear time. If I could go from like 7 minutes to 4.5 or something, that would be great. And Aina isn't that great of a champion, but she is pretty good in the right context. Like if you have Sky Touch Shaman, which is the big beak-wearing epic champion here, the Void champion that wears the big beak. Let me shrink that just for a second so you can see. But yeah, that's Sky Touch Shaman. Sky Touch Shaman can crank out the heals. I've got a champion guide going over her specifically, and I did use her in my initial stage 21 clearing team. But after I got Syl the Drakes, I slid in Syl instead of Sky Touch. And now dying, and even when I die, I can get revived. So I'm thinking about building an Aina to crank out the deeps. She's got really good multipliers and can really crank out that single target damage to maybe save me a minute or two against that boss fight. So I'm thinking about that. But yeah, Barbarians in general, a pretty cool faction. You've got some good rares. You can see there, War Maiden, one of the best rares in the game. Marked, Soulbound Bowyer, and Skirmisher are all pretty solid rares and very good in Faction Wars. And then you've got High Katoon, which is another daily login reward champion that is very accessible to newer players. A really good turn meter booster, turn meter manipulator, speed buffer, all that good stuff. So High Katoon can be very valuable. You've got Hill Nomad, Sentinel, Berserker, Ox are all decent, and not a whole lot of deep red champions that are like 1, 2s, or 3s. A lot of the Barbarians are going to be totally viable all the way up to stages like 16 or 17. And then once you get towards those later stages, 19, 20, 21, is where you're going to start wanting to use the champions that are up in the blue, the 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. And as long as you have at least a couple of them, you should be good to go. But as long as you play long enough, you're going to have Syl of the Drakes, War Maiden, and Haikatoon, which just that alone will make a pretty solid team. Just those 3 is a pretty solid core. So as long as you play long enough and are diligent enough about developing your account, you shouldn't have any problems making some decent progress in the Barbarian Faction Wars. And then Contra was also a fusion event. So if you were, if you've been playing long enough and you were at a point in the game where you could go after that fusion, you would have her as well. So you would already have a pretty solid Barbarians team if you've been playing for a decent amount of time. But even if you weren't, like I said, you're guaranteed to get Silver the Rakes eventually, and she is an absolute Faction Wars and Dungeons progression carry. So in terms of endgame options, they will be there for you as long as you are diligent about progressing. So yeah, just in general, the Barbarians, a very well-designed faction. They've got options. They've got one of the best legendaries in the game in Valkyrie. They've got good rares, one of the best rares in the game in War Maiden that you can farm from the campaign, and the last stage is very manageable. I will pull up the mechanics of the last stage so that you can see here exactly what you're going to be going up against. Let me make that just a little bit bigger. You've got the, if you're stuck before the last Faction Wars boss, the problem is probably your champion development, your masteries, your gear. But if you're stuck on stage 21, let's walk through the mechanics really quick. Attack 2 random enemies. Each hit places a provoke debuff, so resist can be very handy on that. Then the A2 is attack all enemies and place a true fear debuff for 2 turns. So again, resistance going to be very good in the last fight of the Barbarian Faction Wars. Then we've got an A3 that has a 20% chance to place a freeze debuff, but this one cannot be resisted, so it's only going to help you with the A1 and the A2. And then the adds of the boss are going to be cranking out heals and buffing the boss, so you're going to want to take care of them as well. Then once you get them down, it's just a slog to go ahead and knock down that boss. But yeah, let me put that away. I will really quick pull up the infographic one more time for you, but that will be down in the video description if you want to take a look at that. And now I'm going to take off, and if you want to see my 3-star full auto clear of the last stage of Barbarian Faction Wars, I'm going to play that right now. So as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day, and if you'd like to see that, go ahead and stick around. Otherwise, have a good one. Peace.